Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. I'm Aisha and I'm very pleased to welcome you all on behalf of Octara. We are very glad to see participants joining from different organizations across industries, and to ensure the smooth flow of this webinar and smooth execution of webinar, I would like to share some housekeeping rules. So although we request you to mute yourself throughout the webinar, but feel free to submit your questions in the chat using the chat function, because we want to keep this session interactive. You can use the Q&A and we'll answer your questions towards the end. This session is being recorded and will be later uploaded on Octara's YouTube channel, and it's also live streaming on our Octara's Facebook page. So if any of your friend or colleague who have not registered yet, they can live view it from our Facebook page. After the webinar, you'll receive the presentation on the topic by the trainer, Joseph Micallef, and you'll also get the group photograph you have taken during the session and e-certificate of attendance. During the session, if you find any difficulty, you can contact my colleague Saremati, who is also the co-host. Also, I would like to mention that along with myself, my colleague Zainab Isaji and Sarem are the co-host and moderating the session. So before I hand over the podium to Joseph, we would like to quickly share a short video message by our CEO, Jamil Janjua, about what we do at Octara. Here's a look.
Hi, hello. My name is Jamil Janjua, and I'm the CEO of TCS Octara. Octara is a company that belongs to the TCS group of family, and it has established an enviable reputation as being one of the leading executive training service providers in Pakistan. A large part of our success is attributed to our chairman, Mr. Khalid Wan, whose personal commitment to encourage the development of the people at both TCS and at the Pakistan level. It has been very stimulating and very inspiring for us. We take great pride in delivering high quality learning experiences which are based on extensive research of training needs, after which programs are created, working with the best possible trainer, the content developed to address the needs, then marketed as a series of leadership acceleration programs, and finally delivered, ensuring all logistics is taken care of to ensure a high quality learning experience. Our team motto at Octara is to help you succeed. Thank you.
So now we are very proud to introduce our webinar leader, Joseph Micallef, who has joined us from Malta to speak on the subject of optimizing business process. A quick introduction of him from his very detailed profile. He is a managing consultant at Strategic and Operational Excellence. He has over 30 years of experience where he has successfully led projects within a wide range of industries, including government, non-government, manufacturing, supply chain, operations, marine, aviation, food and beverages, healthcare, information technology, financial services, and I think the list is long. He's also a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt and IoT leader. He has a strong background in mentoring and coaching, where he designed to facilitate the establishment of effective, value-adding and quality-driven business operation within the organization. He has trained several hundreds of middle management level and top executives, top executive delegates, not only in Malta, but also in UK, Italy, Egypt, UAE, Oman, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome Joseph to start with the presentation. Thank you, Joseph, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Aisha. I will just share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Very good. Can you please confirm whether you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Very good. Okay. So hello, everybody. Once again, I thank the team at Octara for organizing this discussion. By way of introduction, Aisha, I think gave a lot of detail. All I can say from my end is that this time that we have today together is your time, not mine. I'm here to share some of my experiences with you, and I hope that you find some value out of this discussion. And again, I urge you to take down any queries, clarifications you might want to discuss, and we can spend some time at the end of this session exchanging some ideas, maybe even discussing points of view that you might have, that I might have, and seeing whether we can help you with a way forward. Right. So moving on from this onwards, I am available to be connected on LinkedIn or directly or through Octara. Feel free to reach out. We will be very happy to answer your questions, help you, and support you. As we know, we have over these last almost 2 years now been through quite some challenging times. I am a consultant. I look at many different organizations. I am based in Malta, but I have worked in different parts of Europe, and especially in the Middle Eastern region. And, you know, I see different organizations face challenges normally when they are operating within, let's say, sensible environments. What has happened over this last year and a half, 2 years with the pandemic has thrown much bigger challenges, much more of an effort required for these businesses to not only operate their businesses as they used to before, but in actual fact now to find a way how we're going to survive and hopefully not just survive, but also thrive into the future as hopefully we start seeing that we are emerging out of these difficult situations that we have all been through throughout these last number of months. So yes, I do appreciate and I think we have all felt to some extent or another the amount of challenges that we had to face, which have obviously stressed us all out, made us think maybe even laterally, all right, just to find ways how to do things differently, just because we were forced not to be able to do them the way we normally do. If we are not prepared, any kick on the bone will be painful. That is no argument. We have seen many organizations fall through. They might not have been prepared. They might have been working. They might have been in operation before the pandemic. The moment that a blow comes their way, because they were not well prepared for such a blow, not many companies were prepared for such a blow. Let's face it. But if you have no real muscle to counteract that blow, it is going to be painful. And we have seen it, we have felt it, and maybe very few companies went through it without some degree of pain. What we need to consider is that we need to build our muscle. We need to build our way to be stronger now, okay? We need to find that opportunity that we don't get lost into trying to solve our current problems, because there are opportunities out of all this. And what we need to do is, rather than keep working hard, keep working with what I call blinkers on, and trying to focus on the immediate, on the survival aspect, there are solutions out there. Let's reach out, let's find ways how solutions are made available. Let us take them on board and let us maximize that effort, that help that there is out there in order to convert the pain we've been through, to convert what has happened over these last couple of years into greater opportunities. We have been, I advocate a lot in my work with different companies. I advocate a lot digital transformation. We were on the route to it, we were working towards it, but of course, an opportunity that came out of the pandemic was that actually it has accelerated the need, the demand for digitalization, thinking of different ways how to do things. So rather than just, remain focused on trying to solve the immediate problems, let us take a bit of a broader look and see out there what kind of opportunities can we take out of this experience in order to enable us to work more efficiently and more effectively. As a business, we need to think a bit within us and see what is taking out our resources, what are the issues we are facing. Let us find a way how we can create a new way of doing things for the future, working our way out of the pandemic era, hopefully, so that we can deliver better value, better quality, more consistently, maybe utilizing different types of resources, maybe utilizing even lesser resources, but ensuring that the value that we are generating within our business continues to flow. I insist a lot on the word flow. The worst thing that one can think of is flow stops. When we talk about companies, we have to make sure that companies are there because they need to deliver value. Unless they deliver value, we don't need the business, we don't need the company. You know what happens on the highway when traffic starts moving slowly? You start having cars traveling at a slower speed. At a tail end, you will have cars that are actually traveling at zero velocity. They stop. And what we need to make sure is that the value that we are creating within our business is constantly flowing through our organization. Anything that stops the flow of value through our company is a problem. We need to make sure that we eliminate it. Organizations are created in traditionally a vertical structure. We might have the sales department, we might have the finance department, we might have the production department, the technical department, the HR, the IT. These are all verticals. Those departments are needed because within each department, there is the expertise you need to execute tasks that belong within that field of expertise. So if I have the production department, I have probably employed the best production manager to make sure that my schedules meet demand, the way the work is organized in the most efficient and effective way, because that is a specific expertise. On the other hand, I might have the logistics department, who is made up of all the expertise you need in supply chain, because they need to deliver your product from your warehouse to the customer. So those verticals, we need them. We need to have the expertise, the capability to execute tasks that belong within each function, within each business unit. But let us not forget that the whole organization as a whole is not operating within these individual silos that we call business units or functions or departments. The organization is there, it exists, because together those departments need to execute their specific tasks because they need to deliver value which flows horizontally through the organization. And this is one of the symptoms of failure that I see a lot within different organizations. Sometimes people are very good technical people, very good commercial people, but they forget that they belong to an organization with a broader view, with a horizontal view, that one that would deliver value across. So flow across the organization is critical. It is key. Unfortunately, because we tend to operate very much within what I call silos, we tend to limit our perspective of view within the silo within which we belong within our organization. And we tend to forget what's coming upstream and what's going downstream from our organization. So we're interested in meeting our KPIs. We are interested in meeting our objectives, but we don't really care what happens down the line. Whether the value is stalling or stopping or being defected further down the line. As long as my silo is protected, I might tend to be happy. I find this to be a massive problem where people tend to focus only on what matters to them. So what we need to do is promote a horizontal view, if you like it. We need to promote that the value that we are generating within our department, within our function, is part of a longer chain made up from tasks, values created from different functions, departments, so that ultimately together, all these values would flow through to our customer. Now, if I told you that in every one of us, in every one of our people who we employ, our colleagues, our subordinates, our managers, if you like it, there is a switch. If I told you that there is a switch, which if you toggle it, it would make those people turn into efficiency machines, would you do it? If it was your company, and you knew you were employing people and you knew that within each individual that you employ, there is a little switch somewhere that if you switch it on, if you toggle it on, that individual would turn into an efficiency mode of thinking that would benefit your organization, that would benefit your customer. Would you go for that switch? Would you toggle that switch? What we will try to do in this little discussion is find that switch. That is the intention of today's discussion, because if we manage to find that switch and we toggle it on, then we are instigating our teammates, our colleagues to become efficiency generators and helps in the whole organization becoming more optimized to create value in a more efficient, more consistent, more effective way. Subsequently, enable us to not only survive out of the difficult times we have been through, but also make bigger successes. Think of doing things differently. The effort that comes out of this line of thinking will enable us to make the whole difference from either collapsing in the future, surviving, or actually thriving. Now, our business model could very simplistically be modeled with a simple black box. We receive inputs, could be data, could be material. We do something to it, and that could be a very complicated activity, depending on the nature of your business, to deliver output. So very simplistically, that is a business model. Of course, our business model is made up of a number of major processes, all linked up and connected together in some funny way, sometimes very complex way, in order to deliver that value, that output. We don't operate on our own. In order for our organization to operate, it needs to receive inputs. Those inputs could be anything. It could be raw material. It could be data, information. We process it. We process it in some complex way within our organization in order to deliver that output that goes to our customers. So we need to make sure that from our standing point, we understand the business model that we belong to, such that we make sure that whatever we do within our organization, within our domain, within our department, is pulling through value through that organization, all the way from our supply chain through our internal operations and all through to reach the awaiting customer. Those processes could be anything, depending on the industry you are in. If you are in manufacturing, you're probably buying bits and pieces, assembling them together, testing them, packaging them, and shipping them. If you are a bank, you might be receiving people's funds, you will be investing them, you will be regenerating more investment and paying out interest. If you are in the hospitality industry, you might be welcoming guests, making sure that they are pleasantly accepted within your facilities, taken care of, and it's an experience that you are sharing. Our business model is made up of a number of different activities, a number of decisions. God knows how many decisions you take in your daily operations. You don't just operate by processing inputs into outputs. You have to do that through your own internal resources. Could be anything, could be people, energy. And you have to do those activities within some kind of boundaries, some kind of controls. Could be legal controls, commercial controls, industry standards, budgetary controls. And of course, you need to make sure that whatever you're doing within your organization is actually measured so that you make sure that you are on the right track. If any of you guys do any exercise, probably first thing you do in the morning is you weigh yourself. You go to the gym, next morning you weigh yourself again to see whether the effect of your gym workout was effective or not. And if it wasn't, you would change your exercise program to make it more effective. Unless you measure, you don't know where you stand. So measurement is key within our initiatives to optimize our operations. And let us not forget that we don't operate in a vacuum. Any business, any organization operates within an environment in order to deliver the value to its customer. And unless we understand also that environment, which could be political environment, it could be an economical, it could be a social environment, we need to understand the broader picture of the world around us. Now, we might be a supervisor within an organization, we operate within an environment. What affects our activities? We could be a CEO of a group of companies, and still we need to look at the broader picture. What influences, what affects the way I operate my business? So let us not forget that we are not working within our little silo. Our silo is important because we offer the expertise within that silo, but we need to make sure that we break those barriers, because unless we understand that that silo barrier has to be broken, the value will not flow through the company. And this is where we come about needing to think how we are doing things, think how we have done things in the past, and think also what changes might we need to do to the way we do our activities in order to make sure that we are generating this value in a different way. Perhaps the way we were generating value, we were delivering service or product to our customers up till 2 years ago, will no longer be the same, will no longer be as effective in the future. We have seen many organizations changing their business model over these last couple of years. To put a very simplistic point of view, in the catering industry, we have seen a massive migration. Up till 2 years ago, you would probably go to a restaurant, sit there and eat there. Through the pandemic, that was not as easy as it was before. So what did we do? The catering industry changed their business model, and rather than wait for people to come to their premises to eat food in their premises, they changed the business model. We can create food, that is what they do, let's take the food to our customers. Let's link up with different organizations to make sure that we deliver the value through different means. Rather than deliver the food at the table, deliver the food at your house. So the business model has changed, it has evolved. Coming out of this, maybe we got used to this luxury, maybe we got used to this kind of lifestyle, and maybe even going out of the pandemic, we still tend to call out food to come to our office. I mean, I find it very practical sometimes, yes? Rather than having to go out and grab something to eat during my busy day, having back-to-back meetings, it might be even much more easy and convenient for me to have something delivered to my office and I can eat as I go along. So it has changed our way of thinking. We need to change our DNA to see that it is future-proof. The way our DNA was until a few years back needs to change. We need to focus always on generating value more efficiently, more effectively, differently, if you like. We have come through a lot throughout the years. The evolution in every aspect has evolved over so many years. The changes happening in the more recent years are more dramatic. They are more impactful than they have been in the past. And the probability is that the rate of change will continue to go at a steeper level even as we move into the future of things. With the aspect of doing business within the environment of a digital business model has taken the way we do things to different levels, to different heights. Unless we are open for accepting the way we do things differently in the future, we tend to struggle to survive. But if we are open for new ideas, if we are open for adapting the way we do things, using different methodologies, different skills perhaps, and different technologies, then we stand a better chance of surviving, if not even thriving in the future. We need to think with a lean frame of mind. We know what the optimistic thinker says, yes? We've heard it so many times. The optimistic thinker will think of the glass as half full. And we also know that the pessimistic thinker will think of the glass as half empty. But we need to think a bit differently now. We need to think with a mentality that is challenging what we actually see in front of us. The lean thinker would challenge and say, why is the glass twice as big as it should be? And that could open up a series of events, initiatives, in order to actually challenge that situation. Rather than look at the traditional perspectives, we need to look a bit sideways, laterally, in order to make sure that the way we look at our operations within our business is somewhat different. And this is where I preach a lot about lean. Now, a clear misconception could be that lean comes out of and belongs to manufacturing. True, lean has originated out of manufacturing, but the principles in lean are very much suited also to the services industry. I work within both. I work both within the tangible industry, so engineering, logistics, supply chain, manufacturing. And I also do work within the services industry, hospitality, finances, insurances, banks, hospitality, healthcare, if you like. Within the tangible industry, we tend to be more ready for accepting the culture of efficiency, of quality, of effectiveness. If I were a production manager and I were walking down the shop floor and I see a box on the side with a label saying rejects, I would probably find myself being really annoyed about it and making sure that I get to know all the facts and why did we create rejects. Why? Because rejects are bad things. They cost me money. On the other hand, if I were a manager in a services industry, let's say in an insurance company, and I walk down the offices and I see everybody busy, tapping away at keyboards, filling in papers, talking on the telephones, I might think that everybody is busy. Busy doing what? Busy delivering value or busy doing nothing? And these are the things we need to change. So within Lean, I like categorizing Lean on 3 pillars. The first one, Lean focuses on people, people, people. People are the key focus. The way I look at it, they are the key focus for a Lean initiative. What are the skills I have? How can I optimize them? What are the opportunities I have with my current capability, with my current capacity? Can I do more with the capacity I have? So the main focus is always people. It's not about laying off jobs. It's not about cost cutting. It is about doing more with the teams you have. The second pillar would be based on methodology. Can I change the way I do things in order to make them more streamlined, to identify those activities that are not adding value? Because if I am not adding value, I don't need to do those activities, and maybe I need to consider removing or reducing them. Once I have mastered streamlining the methodologies, and then I look at what technology exists out there, because technology will help me facilitate the way I do things more efficiently. But plugging in technology into an operation that is not first streamlined will only create non-value adding outputs, waste, more efficiently. And that is definitely not something that we want to do. So we need to identify what I call roadblocks. And normally we categorize these roadblocks within an organization, which roadblocks stop the flow. That's why we call them roadblocks, because they are stopping the flow. A roadblock stops you from driving through. We define 3 types of roadblocks in this frame of mind. The first one is the roadblock of non-value added activity. In other words, waste. We call that MUDA. Another roadblock would be the stress event, the stress aspect of things. People asked to do things and they don't have the right tools, or they don't have the right skills, they don't have the right capabilities. They stress out. They try to do things, but they don't have the right tools, they don't have the right capability, they don't have the right training. So they might assume certain things and do mistakes and therefore create waste. They might load themselves with stress and therefore not be effective, not be efficient, not think straight. Or they might decide to not care less. They don't own their bit of the process. And therefore you get all sorts of other different problems. The third roadblock is the chaotic effect, the unevenness in the way we do things. We need to create monthly reports. We let them sit there for the first 3 weeks of the month, and then we panic on the last week of the month because we need to do everything before the month end. And then the second month comes through, and again, we've worked so hard the last week of last month, so let's relax the first 3 months, and then we pile it all at the end. So we create these humps in the way the work will flow through our organization, our department, if you like it, whatever we are responsible for. We would love to find a way how we can even out that load so that the process is constantly flowing, rather than have a rush of vehicles traveling down the motorway at one go and possibly causing accidents, possibly slowing down the flow and eventually stopping it. Let us have more of a consistent flow. If only you can find ways of doing it. Of course, we won't be discussing the details here, but the idea of this webinar is to seed in some thoughts into your heads so that you can go away and think about these aspects. When you look out, when you go to your offices, when you are in your offices, you walk around, you see everyone being busy, people walking, talking, tapping away at keyboards, answering telephones, filing paper. What are they doing? They look busy, but busy doing what? Are they busy tackling one of those roadblocks, or are they busy generating value? If it were your organization, if you are paying for those people, would you pay for waste? If you were the customer, would you pay for the waste that your supplier has created within his own internal operations? Our business is constantly bombarded by different influences. There are influences coming from external forces, the market, the demand, the customers, the economical situation, health situations like we've seen. And those will request us to review our model, how we are operating, in order to preempt and make necessary changes in order to enable us to work within the future. But with that, there are also influences that are internal. Your own people, your own raw materials, the data sets that you are creating. How are these influencing the way you operate your business? Internal influences coupled with external influences on your business model require us to constantly review and update and change and rethink the way we do things. And we do this through a discipline which we call business process management. Business process management is about identifying the core value, defining how we're going to deliver that value, so the value stream. Once we define the value stream, we have to design the processes we need in order to execute and deliver that value. Once we create those processes, we need to see what resources do we need to execute those processes. What data do we need? What raw material do we need? What skills do we need? And from there onwards, we work up to restructuring our organization in order to be prepared and ready to create, to execute those processes, to create the value that would flow through our organization and reach our customers. Business process management helps us do all this. It helps us reduce risks, it helps us improve quality, improve consistency, identify where gaps are. And it is a process that is continuous. We start by exploring what we have today, analyze it, design the future state, test it out, make the changes, and then implement it. And implementing it could be actually the most difficult of all tasks. Once you implement it, your process starts aging. So you have to start over again. Let's see what we have. Let's analyze it. We analyze the current state. We call it as is. We design the way we can do it in the future. So we have to think sideways. We have to think laterally. We have to bring in lean. We have to bring in quality. We have to bring in digitalization. We have to bring in automation. And then you come up with the blueprint. Test that blueprint. And you start iterating. This is what I should be doing. That would be my blueprint. What are other options that I could consider? And eventually, what would I implement? So what I would implement could actually be a few iterations away from the ideal state, because we have limitations in resources, we have limitations in budgets. Okay, so the blueprint would be the ideal scenario. We don't live in an ideal world, so we have to work with what we have available. And you iterate into a would-be. Once you decide the would-be, and then you go ahead, set up a project management office, and you implement the changes that you come up with. Optimization can therefore be done in 3 basic steps. And now we want to go through that toggle switch that we mentioned at the beginning of this conversation. Where is this toggle switch? What will enable us to become individually machines of optimization within our business? The first step is simple. Decide where you are. Do not start moving unless you first establish where you're leaving from, your departure point. So, as we saw from the earlier slides, that discovery aspect. Discover where you are now. These are my current problems. These are my current strengths. And I need to leave knowing my strengths and my weaknesses. Once I know those, I go into the analysis and the design. I go into the experimentation phase. And I start experimenting, doing things differently, bringing in different disciplines, doing my research. Once I learned, I did the analysis and the design, I go ahead and implement what I've done. And based on the results, I share it. I promote it with my colleagues. So we are after, as individuals, looking within our domain. We cannot change the whole organization. That would be too catastrophic, and maybe it is not within our responsibility. But we can become instruments of improvement by focusing on our domain, on whatever we have authority within, our department, our desk, if you like it. See what is the current situation. Experiment. Implement and see the results. And when you get the results that you are anticipating, share them with your colleagues. So if you had to summarize it, look at your processes that you execute within your domain, within the areas that you have accountability for. Identify what is the value you are generating. Remove any waste. Do streamlining of your business processes. Affect changes. See what new technologies can bring in. Maybe a new software, maybe a new machine that can, maybe a new tool you can use. And test it out, work it out. Look at the results and demonstrate those results to your colleagues. And push to do that throughout the whole organization. So it's like sowing the seeds and letting them grow, and then picking those seeds and dropping them into another field and letting them grow there. And gradually and slowly, you will be distributing this positive vibe of optimizing your operations without doing something as chaotic as a whole business transformation, which could be beyond you. We call this Yokaten, where you are implementing small changes within your domain, looking at the outcome and promoting the outcome with your colleagues. And then your colleagues go ahead and do the same. So you create like a wave, a movement of process optimization at lower levels. Why? Because we are not operating in silos. We are here operating horizontally within an organization where the intention is to deliver value across the organization. And by doing this, we promote a very important mindset, that of ownership. People don't then just execute procedures that you gave them. People own those procedures, they optimize them, they make them better, and they take full ownership of that and pride, and they are happy to talk about them with their colleagues. So we start this like movement within our organization structure where we are promoting people to become instigators of optimization. And that is where that switch is. That is the toggle we have to do. We switch on this approach, this mindset in our people. We start with ourselves, and moving on from there, we promote it to our people. And slowly and surely, you will see over a number of different initiatives, like a spread of good vibe, a spread of positiveness, a spread of optimization within your organization. Of course, you need to have, at a higher level, at a maybe a more strategic level, a good master plan. It doesn't just happen randomly. Okay, so we need to create this master plan. How are we going to start off this optimization movement within our business in order to get people to be accountable, responsible, and own their own business processes in order to instigate improvement? We need to have someone to lead, ideally someone with experience, an expert in the field of lean, in the field of quality, in the field of digitalization, automation, project management, because this becomes a project that you need to manage at a leadership level. And don't start big, because if you start big, the chances are that we look ahead of us and we see a big mountain to climb and we say, I'd rather stay here. It's easier if I stay here. But start with something small. I love working with pilot projects. Why? Because pilot projects give me results very soon. And once I see those results, I can demonstrate those results and I can talk about them. And then I can scale it up or I can distribute it. If I have done something and it worked, how about yourself? And the other one, and the other one. Now, if I manage to achieve this, can I achieve something bigger and bigger and bigger? Many years ago, when I started talking about lean, I was quality manager in manufacturing in a high-tech electronics industry. And maybe, I don't know, 25 years ago, I started thinking lean. I was not the most organized of people. And as quality manager, my office was completely cluttered with samples, with bits and pieces of electronics, with manuals and standards and everything. When I started thinking lean and I needed to implement lean within my organization, the first thought that came to mind was that how can I go preach lean to the rest of my colleagues when my office is like a nightmare? So what I did was, my office is my office. It was maybe, I don't know, 5 meters by 5 meters. And that was my domain. And that was my kingdom, like, you know. So what I did was, over a weekend, I implemented a discipline that we talk about in lean called 5S. You can look it up. And I implemented a 5S exercise on my office over the weekend. After the weekend, people were coming to my office and they were surprised. They were saying, Joe, what happened to you? They saw a whole change, a whole transformation. It was a pilot project. I instigated that I can do something within my office, within my little domain. I did not need the authorization of anyone. I did not need the blessing of anyone. It was my responsibility and I did it. And I showed the results. I showcased the result. I maintained it. And then I made my people, my department, do the same exercise. And they did it. And then the departments next to us in the block. And then we could go out on the shop floor, in the factory floor, and implement the disciplines of lean in the shop floor. But through this pilot assignment that I took on to do myself, I could demonstrate to people that with some effort, things can be done. And those things will yield more benefits. Just imagine the impact it would have if I had to go out on the factory and implement changes, implement lean disciplines when my office was the way it was before. It would have fired back, yes? Don't you think so? And that was the instigation. So I always normally recommend that people want to see results. Start something small, within a few weeks, see the result. It might not be the best return on the investment, but at least you have a proof that if you do something, you do get something out of it. And then make it grow intrinsically. Don't forget, you need to measure your improvement. As we were saying earlier, if you go to the gym and you don't see any improvement in your size or in your weight or in your muscles, that doesn't really encourage you to go back to the gym next day. But if you see the improvement, it encourages you even further. And if you are not getting the improvement you anticipated, it will challenge you to change the program you are on to make it more effective. So unless you measure your achievements, you might tend to not do anything about it in the first place. What we need is a workforce that is instigated to become machines of improvement, machines of optimization, machines of efficiency building, of quality building, machines that generate value and not do things that are not worth their value. We do this through encouraging people to be multi-skilled. They can do different things. They could be expert in their own field, but they can also understand what happens in different aspects of the business. We would love to have people who are cross-functional, that they can work across different departments and functions. Again, I would not expect the receptionist at a medical clinic to operate, to do a surgery, but at least she needs to understand what goes through the whole clinical operations, the reception, the pre-op medical, the surgical, the rehab, the administration. So they need to be cross-functional, they need to understand what happens across the organization. Why? Because only like that you would get people owning the bit of the task that they are assigned to do within their job description. Don't expect them to be experts in everything, but at least they have a good appreciation of what happens across the different functions. And we need people, our employees, to be as flexible as they can be. Especially when we go through the hard times, we need to have people who are ready, because they are multi-skilled and because they are cross-functional, to be flexible and do different things. The more things that one can do, the more sustainable would be the survival of our business. Combining all these elements that we have been talking about during this short webinar, we instigate a mechanism for looking at what we do within our organizations in a different way to make it not just sustainable, but to make it even more successful. Why? Because there are opportunities, and let's strike them. Now, before I let you go away, I always believe that it's useless me preaching out to people like you. Probably you are converted already that things need to change and things to happen. But I request of you that you actually take it on board with yourselves. Do something throughout the next few days to demonstrate to yourselves, maybe your colleagues, maybe your subordinates or your bosses, that by doing small things, you can achieve plenty. As a personal challenge, I would suggest you try the exercise I had done maybe 25 years ago, where look at your little domain, look at what you have, see how you are operating, and make it better. Make it leaner, make it cleaner, and see the results. They might not be fantastic in terms of the return on the investment, but at least you change mindsets, you change cultures, and you get people thinking that by doing small things, things can happen, and there is value in doing that. There are a few minutes left from this webinar, so I would request the Octara team to take the floor and maybe lead on with some questions that might have come in throughout this conversation. Again, I urge you to reach out to Octara or myself directly. We will collaborate between us if you need any help, and we'll be very happy to help you out. Ayesha, I believe I will leave the floor to you now.
Thank you, Joseph, for the very informative and useful presentation. I request you to please stop sharing your screen.
Sure.
And before we go into question answer session, can we, I request all the participants to switch on your videos and we can have a group photograph. My colleague Sarim, who's also the co-host of this meeting, will take a group photograph. He'll prompt you, and with thumbs up, it will do better than.
Okay, everyone ready?
Yes.
Just wait for the second. Let everyone open the camera.
Smile.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic.
Okay. So now the floor is open for Q&A, and we have already a few questions in the chat box. Adil Saab has commented on few of your slides, and he has some questions also. But I'll start with the first question that came from Mahmood. He's asking, what is the link between organizational strategy and business process management?
Yes, very strong, very strong. The business process management is all about creating the right processes to create the value stream in line with the organizational strategy. Because if you are not in line with the organizational strategy, you find yourself having business processes that are there, defined, executing, but they are not delivering the value that the business has put it as part of its strategy to deliver to its customers.
Okay, so Adil Saab, who is also the senior correspondent of Octara, he's asking, scale back and degrowth are the buzzwords in the post cooperation of parties 26 period. What advice would you render to China and USA, the most dominant polluters on the planet? Is there a room for optimizing the fossil fuel mega industry, especially coal?
I mean, again, I'm not an environmentalist expert, of course, but again, I think it's all related to the way we do things, the business processes we create in whatever activity we are doing, and making sure that we are efficient in our execution of those processes. Now, efficient, it would be using different technologies to deliver that value. So if one technology is more polluting than the other, let's find a more eco-friendly way of doing things. And I think it is the culture of business in general, where it's not just about being efficient and effective in terms of generating profit, but also in environmental aspects, in social aspects, you know.
Okay, and he's commenting on the on this climate change question. I think do more mantra should be entirely replaced with do less comment. Your comment, he's asking your comment.
Yes, maybe. Again, I mean, sometimes overproducing is a waste. If you look up the 8 wastes of lean, overproduction is a waste. We tend to overproduce. So therefore, yes, if we can get away with less, there are 2 ways how you can make something happen with greater value. Either work harder or demand less. Now, sometimes we demand a bit more than we really need to demand. So, you know, again, I think it's a whole culture shift that needs to come through over the generations.
Okay, on the presentation of ownership, when you were talking about ownership, Adil Saab is saying that's the magic word, but we seem to addicted to passing the buck. How do we get out of that mindset?
Yeah, no, it's not exactly passing the buck. It is about making people understand their involvement within the operations, however small it is. You might know the story about the NASA office, a delegation inside NASA, the cleaner inside NASA, whose job was purely keeping the area clean. When one of the high-ranking officials who was visiting their offices asked them, like, what do you think about your role? The cleaner responded very promptly, said, "Sir, my job is very important because I help keep the place sanitized and clean for those clever guys in the room to send people to the moon." So, being such a necessary but maybe considered lower end job, this gentleman could appreciate that his task, keeping the place tidy and clean, the lavatories clean, was in actually part of the whole process of shooting rockets to the moon. So it is about ownership. Yes, we would love to see people owning whatever they do, however small it is, as part of the bigger picture of the whole organization.
Okay, can you also elaborate on 5S when you're talking about lean?
Okay, 5S is a discipline in lean. It is, you can look it up. There's loads of information on the internet. If you need any support, of course, we will be very happy to help through Octara. 5S is a discipline where you organize your workspace. Okay, so it is 5 words starting with S. I would encourage people to look it up. That's why I'm not saying it. A very simple discipline, but it could make such a big difference. It is normally the first exercise you would probably go through when you talk about lean management.
Okay, JJ is asking, what time frame would you recommend for business planning post-COVID? Previously, it was 3 to 5 years.
It's a very open question. It very much depends on the industry you are in. If you are in a fast-paced industry, you need to be reviewing your processes and activities literally weeks in between. If you are more of a traditional industry, that could be months or maybe a couple of years, but it very much depends on the type of industry that you are within.
And the second question from JJ is, what training do you suggest for optimizing business process at the individual level?
I think various topics would come into play. Obviously, quality management, lean management, business process management, project management. They are all, in one way or another, connected to each other when you want to become a business process manager.
Okay. Sohail Masood is asking, business process re-engineering and business process management, both are same?
The re-engineering aspect is about actually executing the changes within the way you do things. Business process management looks at it at a broader level, at a higher level.
Okay, so with that, we come to end to our Q&A session. And I would like to quickly share, before we finish the presentation and finish the session, I would like all the participants to share your feedback with us, because it will help us to improve our upcoming session in terms of designing and implementation and execution. So there is a link in the chat box. My colleague Zainab will put the link in the chat box, and you can give your feedback for the session. Also, I would like to share a quick information about Octara's upcoming program. If you want to register yourself, there are 2 face-to-face classroom trainings are happening in December on 8th and 9th by John Bentley. The first one happening on 8th of December is Emotional Intelligence for HR Leaders. It's happening in Karachi, and the second one is Strategic Thinking and Planning. We are also having a very important program. It's a very affordable and attractive program for frontliners, which is by the name of Customer Services Skill for Frontliners. It's happening on Zoom on 14th December. And on 15th of December, we are having Uzma Etiqad program, Building Organizational Change Capability. It's also happening in Karachi. and it's a classroom training. So if you want to register in any or all of the program, you can contact my colleague Sarah Matik, who looks after the client side. And I'm hoping that you are filling the feedback form that's given. I would like to quickly share about Octara's complementary platform, which was initiated during the pandemic, when there was a sudden outage, or I would say sudden halt in the physical training, and that's when we came up with this platform called Octara WebMall Plus. Now, under this platform, you'll get all the webinar and e-learning material coming from all sorts of resources, including Octara trainings, and also from the all around the globe, including MIT and Harvard and McKinsey and established resources. And the best part is it's free of cost, and you can get the recording and listen to these webinar at your convenience. There on your right side, you can see another platform which is called Made in Pakistan Web Mall, a Phoenix Rising. Here we share all the positive achievements and accomplishment that Pakistanis are doing and have done in the past. So if you want to get access to all this information, you can simply register yourself. My Zainab is putting all the links in the chat so that you can have the access. Other than that, you can also get Octara program access on all our social media platform, which include LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, we have Octara page, and we also have micro learning page. Now, this page is meant for you to have a bite-sized learning programs pertaining to vast variety of subjects. And also we have our Facebook page and Twitter, and this, of course, Web Mall Plus and Made in Pakistan Web Mall. So with that, we come to an end of our session. I would like to thank all the participants for staying on the line till the end of the session. Most of the participants are here. And I would like to thank all my colleagues, especially Zainab and Sarem, and all at the back in the office. A special thanks to JJ for enabling us and enabling us to do this program at a very short time. And lastly, JJ, if you want to say a few words.
Yeah. Thank you, Aisha. My packers and movers have, in a way, quietened down a little, but they might raise a little bit of noise in the background. But I thought it opportune for me to thank at a personal level Joseph for his what I would say very engaging and very simple presentation, especially coming from an engineer. Very easy, engaging, and a lot of these slides that you've shown are so exemplifying the point that you're trying to make. I like the way that you started with giving us the awareness of the challenges ahead of us, and that we need to build muscle so that we can survive and find survival solutions depending on the opportunities that we see for ourselves. Yes, you're right about the digital acceleration because of the COVID situation. That has been very helpful. And your point about learning to maintain the flow. We need to learn to maintain the flow rather than break it. I like the toggle example, how to survive to improve and how to become more efficient. So that was very kind of you. Those are good points to take home and to learn from. Your example of the restaurant was very simple, but for us, all of us, very relevant with what we were going through. So that was a good point. So in the end, again, you sort of more or less led us to lean thinking, which is the future direction. And I think the situation requires for us to not only think lean in our businesses, but also think lean in our minds with regards to our consumption, regards to our eating habits, regarding our habits that are not good for the health. So thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you for bringing Joseph across. I am sure that all the participants would love to hear him again, and let us see if we can encourage the individuals on this platform right now who come from various organizations, and I would like to name those organizations: Ufone, Midas, Jaffer, Treat, TCS, and Dalda. I hope that you would go back to your organizations and spread the awareness that you've learned, the knowledge that you've learned to your team members, and also within your organization. If you need any further help with understanding this process, please let us know, and we will ask Joseph to come to Pakistan and do a program, or offline or online. So thank you once again. Thank you, Team Octara. Thank you all participants for staying with us all this time. And thank you for all the questions that have been asked, Adam. All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.